Welcome back to Souhan Unfiltered at SouhanUnfiltered.com. My guest tonight, very excited about this one, Quincy Lewis, former Gopher star, and now a development officer. Right? Did I get that right? Development officer.
I think the star part, I don't think you got that one
I got that right. I watched you play. I know that part's right. I was worried about, but, titles. Everybody's a vice president of something these days, right?
No, not me. At least not yet. A development officer. So basically what I do is go out. I have the great task of going out and finding support for our young student athletes at the University of Minnesota. So anything that has to do with a student athlete and athletics, I'm a part of. From building TCF Bank Stadium to the new stadium to the athletic village that we have, to scholarships, to enhancement funds. We really do everything. I mean, I go out and I find trade. I go out and try to find jobs, try to find internships.
What do you mean find trade?
If someone wanted to host us and say, Quincy, when you have recruits come in, we could do something where, you guys give us a certain amount of food and beverages, and then we turn around and can offer tickets. It's a one-to-one type of situation where we go out and everything is a donation. So anything that you want to donate that has some value, because every once in a while we have people bring in stuff, but pretty much that. I mean, I'm a gopher. So I go out and try to do what I can.
And you're wearing your maroon today. By way of introduction, this is I'm Jim Souhan. This is my podcast. It's called Souhan Unfiltered. You can find it at the website, SouhanUnfiltered.com. You can access it via iTunes. Subscribe through iTunes. It'll come to your inbox. Or you can listen to it on iHeartRadio. And tonight we're at Kieran's Irish Pub. We're here. We're at either Kieran's or the local every other week. Right now we're doing Mondays. So this Monday we're at Kieran's. Next Monday we'll be at the local. Wednesday I'll be at O'Gara's. I'll be at the Liffey on Wednesday night with Star Tribune hockey writer Michael Russo. We'll be talking about the Wild. And Michael's podcasts with me have been very well received. I want to thank Guinness. I want to thank Minnesota Eye Consultants. Of course, I want to thank Kieran's and the local. And we have some other sponsors coming on board soon. And I'll get back to more of that in a little bit. Let's start here. We're going to talk about the bracket. We're going to talk about March Madness. We're going to talk about your career. But what I really like talking to people about on the podcast is, how'd you make it this far? I mean, and people just tell great stories. And so, I was in spring training a couple of weeks ago, and I sat down with Torrey Hunter to do a podcast, and he starts talking about growing up on the mean streets of Arkansas. I can't remember which town he was Pine Bluff. He was Pine Bluff. And I've talked to, Torrey talked about how tough it was growing up in Pine Bluff. I remember I talked to Jarius Wright, the Vikings receiver, about growing up in a very small town. I can't remember what it was called, a very small town in Arkansas, and he talked about being surrounded just by trees, nothing but trees. What was your experience like growing up in Arkansas?
Man, Banging in Little Rock. You remember that? The whole documentary?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was my childhood. For me, I'm all about luck. Everyone says that they don't believe in luck, but I've seen so many guys that have more talent, better opportunities, that just fell by the wayside. Pine Bluff, I remember we used to go down for the King Cotton Classic, and you really would see the poverty. And even now, I find myself shaking my head and feeling how blessed I am. And when you look around, but Little Rock was a great place, very small, probably a little bit smaller than St. Paul. Kind of the same tendencies here. You have a small downtown, and you had a little bit of a suburb. It came a time where, drugs, gangs, money, guns became highly popular, not only in Arkansas, but just was that time. Coming out of California, and with the drug trade before the war on drugs. So I was kind of caught up in that and just got lucky enough that, I had parents to keep me on the straight and narrow. Before AAU got cursed, spent a lot of time in AAU. And I grew up a baseball player too. So, I was a catcher. So I played a lot of baseball. So I had a lot of stuff to keep me kind of focused and on the straight and narrow.
It's funny you mention luck and luck being on your side. Because first of all, I agree with you. Luck does play a role in life, and it plays a role in sports, and I don't think anybody should deny that. But so often I talk to athletes who make it, including Tori and Jairus, people like that, and they say, well, my dad wasn't around, and things were tough, and I had to persevere. And they talk about overcoming bad luck. It sounds like you're telling the opposite story.
Well, for me, I'm very fortunate. I have both parents. Both parents were professionals. Both of them went to college. So college education was a mandatory. It wasn't just get there. You were going to finish. But I also think that when you have the luxury sometimes, you also have the luxury to stray. You have the luxury to get yourself in some situations. And I just felt like, I was blessed because I had family members that just strayed down and never really got back. And even my time at De La Salle, even my time when I talk to kids all the time, I always say, hey, you're going to have an opportunity. And you're going to have an opportunity to do good and bad. So the one time that you get lucky, you didn't get arrested, you didn't get shot, you didn't get into a fight, all those things. When you had that one opportunity, if you keep pushing it, then all of a sudden you're going to get that. And one of the great things I love about Minnesota is that it's so black and white down south. It's so black and white, and you can get caught up in it very quickly, and really be mad, be angry. You can see the divide sometimes, and sometimes that play with it. But for me, like I said, I just was I was just lucky that I wasn't standing outside my friends when someone came and did a drive-by. I wasn't at the mall when they had the huge fight, and if you were there and you were black, you got arrested. So many things. And, I've always been blessed, and I've always told my kids when it comes to sports, because that's the reason why I'm here, sports. But you don't have to be guilty to have sports taken away from you.
Right.
And that's one thing that I think a lot of times when, when we talk about athletes, they be like, well, I wasn't guilty. But as soon as the perspective about you is guilty or something is bad, it's like, I love Randy Moss to death. No one can tell me something that bad that Randy Moss did. Not a single thing. And in the time now when we talk about weed, cocaine, folks cheating, never got caught up in anything, but now all of a sudden folks see him on TV, and he has his personality, he talks, and I think he's turned a new leaf. I'm like, what did he do? He was only the greatest football player here, and now all of a sudden he may not, when you talk about Hall of Fame, they go, are you kidding me?
Oh, he's Hall of Famer.
He made 3 quarterbacks league MVPs. But the perspective of him about who he was, because we didn't know him. We didn't get a chance to see him. The only thing that we saw was through a very, very small lens. And I'm still a big proponent. I tell my kids all the time, you do not have to be guilty to lose sports in any realm. And that's one of the things that I thought that was very instilled with me. I know I can remember my mom with these very simple phrases like, don't be afraid to read. Don't be classified as a jock. And those things, a lot of those things I took personal. And that's probably the reason why now I'm a little skeptical and I'm still a little brash when it comes to certain things, because that was one of the biggest things that I really had to work on, was accepting being a basketball player. Folks know me because of that. And for a long time, I really, really fought it. But, it was just little things like that when you said that I had to overcome. I didn't necessarily have to overcome the poverty, the family dynamics, but I also was given an opportunity to do some other things and get into some other trouble that having a middle class life puts you in. Very easily I could have taken my parents' car, gotten drunk and ran over and killed someone. We've heard about that, Ronnie Fields, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of things that on every perspective, and I feel like for us in society, a lot of times we either look at the 2 high points and say, all right, at the low, it was the best. At the top, well, misguided, okay. But in the middle, well, I don't know about that. But there's a lot of struggle in the middle.
So why Minnesota?
I committed to Virginia.
Did you?
I did.
I didn't know that.
So I went to Virginia, and when I really think about it now, Southern, close to home, had
great school,
4,500 blacks on campus, looked a little different. So I went, had a great time, bought a sweatshirt, got home, told my mom, told my dad, I'm ready to go, going to Virginia. Called the assistant coach, wife, because he didn't answer, they were at practice. Called me back and said, we've just taken a kid at practice, so we don't have a scholarship for you. So I hung up the phone, called Clem. Clem, I'm coming. So that was it. Guy called me back about 20 minutes later and said, hey, I convinced the coach to let you have a scholarship. So I said I'd already committed, and the kid that they took above me never played. Got kicked out of school. So that was the reason I didn't go to Arkansas is that I'm having the greatest time of my life. And
was Nolan Richardson coaching?
Nolan Richardson, yep. Scotty Thurman, Corliss Williamson. I knew Corliss from AAU. I said, what do y'all do for fun? They said, we go to Little Rock or Tulsa. I went home and said, hell. I told my mom. I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I hate to break your heart, but ain't nowhere in the hell I'm going there. I was like, Tulsa? I was a young kid that was really looking to get out and kind of see the world, and it really was an interesting deal for me. My dad asked me, he was like, are you planning to live in Arkansas? And I was like, no. He was like, the son, don't go here. Yeah. So, and that was the reason. I was really looking for something. And, when I look back at my 4 years, we got to see Jordan. We got to see KG for his 4 years. I got to see Sammy Sosa, Mark Aguirre come through on that crazy run. I met Puckett. Used to hang out with Tony Oliva behind it. I'm always I'm a Metrodome guy. I hated when the Twins were doing well because you couldn't find a good seat. When they were doing bad, you just sat down and put your feet everywhere. You could,
believe me, I remember.
Foul balls were bouncing. You could
you can hear TK talking in the dugout.
It was just great. But even the Vikings. When I looked at it, Minneapolis was in a great spot as far as their sports. The Gophers, I don't think that the Gophers had a 4-year run where football, basketball, baseball, women's sports was just at a high. So when I look back at it, I won an NIT. We went to the Final Four. My last year, whatever it was, we still went to the tournament. So it was one of those things where you look back, and I put my 4 years up against anybody's 4 years that was in college.
What was Clem's sales pitch to you? And I saw Richard Pitino the other night at the state basketball tournament, and I just gave him a shot. I said, I hope you're doing our recruiting during the summer. Did you know how cold it was?
Yeah, I can't remember, but I tell you, one of the first winter memories that I had was that I was over in the super block, and I came out, and it was snowing. Big, huge flakes. I remember calling my mom. I'm like, Mom, I'm like in the middle of that Christmas movie, like when the guy walk up and he's running around. Just huge flakes. But it was something about it. It was something about the university at that time where Halloween, it snowed, but people enjoyed it. People kept going. I tell folks, Minneapolis, hidden gem. If you can get over the winter, best place you ever live. And that's one reason why I haven't left. But, I came up here and I was super excited about, like I said, football, basketball, hockey, just everything. We had a chance to see the Lion King before it went to New York and became famous. And that's Minnesota. So, young kid that wasn't scared, that was looking for something. I had so much fun in my 4 years and continue to have fun here, and that's probably the reason my biggest sales pitch was for Clem. And Clem was a scorer. He's gonna come in, and it was unique because at the time, looking back, having the opportunity to play for a black coach, I didn't look at it like that. Two of my 4 coaches were black, 2 were white. So, but learning about him, learning about his history, NBA stuff, and really just getting to know him my last 2 years, phenomenal. phenomenal. Every day, best decision of my life to become a Gopher.
So what made him a great coach? What engendered that kind of loyalty and that kind of fondness from you? And by the way, it's a podcast. Feel free to have a sip. I mean, anytime you want.
I can't do it too fast. I'll really get to tell him some stories.
That'd be okay. Make it a 2-hour show.
I think the greatest thing about him was that he was eerily honest and very simple. I remember this story. We went to Purdue, and I had a streak where I had scored 20 points in a row for 7. And it was the first game, all year I didn't score 20 points. And he kind of looked at me, and he was like, that never would have happened to me.
Well, he also had an ego. Clem had an ego.
But that's what you needed. I mean, when you think about his run and all the great players, in a lot of ways, when it was time, when it was crunch time, when it was the ball, there was, no letdowns because of his expectations of how he thought you should play, what you should do, and that he felt like he had put you in a situation to succeed. In a lot of ways, I just feel like that's what you need in a coach, to have that sense of arrogance that I'm not asking you to do anything that I haven't done. And I think that was the great thing about it, is that he built this hugely mystique that for some reason you believed it. Because when you looked him up, he did score a lot of points.
Yeah.
He may not have done it the way that he said he did it, but he scored a lot of points, and he played in the NBA, and he had this knack of just getting it out of you and having that trust in you. And I really felt like, one of my biggest things I remember is that back then on the weekends we traveled commercial. His big thing was we wear a tie when we travel commercial. It only took me one time when I was a junior to realize is that it was my responsibility not only to make sure everybody on the team had a tie, that the tie was tied. So you can imagine, you can just imagine winter, going to Purdue. We're on an early flight, 6 a.m., and here I am. I got an armful of ties, trying to match them up with the guys because they had already lost them, and then here I am tying them up, and and him coming to ask me, are we okay? Everyone's got a tie and everyone's here, and it's just little things like that, and the responsibilities of having to stop the bus and asking guys, do you it was our responsibility to pack our shoes. That was never the manager's job. We always packed our own shoes because that was something that when he played in the NBA, when he was bouncing from YMCA to YMCA, is that, hey, they were responsible for your own shoes. For one, folks would steal them back then, but just little things like that just really resonated with me. And if you embraced that and you took that leadership, it was funny how that transcended into the game. How that leadership that you showed off the floor, guys would come back in. He would always say that your game would be just like the way that you have your house, So if it was messy at home, your game was messy. So it was interesting.
Tubby got to the tournament a few times. Monson had one really good year when he was here. But in general, it's been fairly dry with the program since Clem left. What should the expectations be for that program?
I'm excited with the expectations of our fans, and sometimes, I wish they would demand more. But only one way. If you're going to demand more, be more accountable. Come to the games, cheer, support financially, with your time. Help us recruit. One of the things that I'm most disappointed about when it comes to the University of Minnesota is that because of family history, stop being so bitter that you don't let the grandkids or the great-grandkids go to the university because Uncle Sam in 1943 didn't get a letter. I am so tired of that. I just am because, you hear these stories of folks, and it's all the conversation about, well, I'm not going to let my son go to the University of Minnesota. Why? Well, they didn't treat somebody else well. I'm like, you know what? If it wasn't you, and you're not going to take any responsibility, why would you not want your kid to play in front of Minnesota? You know that's you and your family's biggest dream to be able to come to the barn and watch your kid play with the maroon and gold. And I don't know why I continue to see people that just force their kids out because of that.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean, I'm not from Minnesota. I moved here in 1990. I have 4 kids. My first 2 kids went to the University of Minnesota and absolutely loved it.
Greatest place on earth.
It's a great school. It really is. And what's your relationship with Richard Pitino, and what's your impression of him?
I love when I took my job, I was like, I need to focus in on my job, and I need to do it even better. For him, I'm in this weird role where I'm at work, but I'm also trying not to be an alumni. I'm trying to be a fan. I want to go to the games and watch, but a lot of it I do work. I am working. It's my job to get all the funds and everything, all the support that he needs. So I'm in this weird kind of predicament, but I love his intensity. I come in and I can watch someone practice 5 or 10 minutes and know if they're a good coach or not. Mm-hmm. I saw him the first time, and I was like, I have to worry about this one. And I just love his enthusiasm. The biggest question that everyone has asked me is, well, are we going to be able to keep him? And I was like, well, you know what? We got to stop being so Minnesotan and pay him. Well, that's one thing, too. We want both sides where we want a great coach and not pay the man. And it's so funny because the last, love Munson. Thought he was a great guy. Felt like he picked the wrong battles. Like, we all know Joe Pizzabella. He's not the guy you need to suspend.
Right.
You could have called Joe's dad or mom, and that would have been enough. You didn't need to suspend him. But then you had Chris Humphries come through, and he's the one that needed the – come on. Mm-hmm. He needed that. Sometimes, as players, highly talented. You know what I'm saying? But the thing of it is that, he was going to the next level. If Munson would have, helped him mature more, he could have been an even better player coming into his first years. I think what he's done and how he's played in the NBA has been great. But I think, in his first early years, especially in Utah, because, I know how Jerry is. Mm-hmm. Needed a little bit more structure because we all do at 18, 19, and 20. But Joel's not the one that needs the discipline. Clem had already done that. Joel was a good guy. And when Tubby came in, I looked at the tape and I was like, that team should have been at least a Sweet 16 team. Good Lord. I mean, you had Colton Iverson, you had Ralph Sampson, you had Trevor Mbakwe, you had Damian Johnson, or even the year after, I mean –
Rodney Williams, right?
Yeah. I mean, the starting lineup was 6'5". You had one kid that had the worst shooting year of his life, his senior year, and still finished shooting over 50% from the three-point line, and Blake Harfarmer. I mean, like, for God's sake, who finishes 50% from the three-point line? Then you had Rodney Williams at the 3, and then you had legitimately 3 pro players. I mean, they're not all NBA players, but they're playing over in Europe. I mean, that was a legitimate team. And then you put the kid that left and went to Canada, went to Oregon.
I know who.
The shooter.
I can picture him.
Then you had the kid that transferred to Cal.
Yep. I can picture him too. I'm old. I'm getting bad with names.
Oh, man, me too. But so it was. He was so close, and it was interesting. Al Nolan gets ineligible that year. Next year, he breaks his foot. Yep. It wasn't cursed, but it was just kind of close to it. Yeah, but this new guy, spunky, can coach. It's just going to be a matter of getting the kids in and unfortunately, the Big Ten is starting to replenish.
Oh, it's a tough league.
It is getting tough. I mean, I tell folks, the simple fact that everyone called Purdue a bubble team and they were 4th in the league says how tough that league was. Now, if your bubble team is 4th, That's a tough word. But if they wouldn't have had such a rough non-conference, we probably would have got 8 teams.
Yeah, I can see that.
Because Michigan, no one wants to play Michigan right now.
No, I love the way Beeline's teams play too. I love the ball movement, the offensive structure. I think he's one of those really, really innovative coaches.
Well, when he gets some more guys, he's going to press more.
Right.
I mean, he hasn't even really pressed the way he wants to. This next group, I think we're going to start inching up and seeing a little bit more chaos, playing chaos. Yeah, the point guard that they have coming in from Maryland is supposed to be one of the best on the ball defenders, and they're just going to have more and more bodies.
Right. So you're a first-round draft choice in the NBA, and playing in the NBA and playing overseas where? Israel,
Greece, and Spain.
In Spain, right. What was that like? Was that a great thing because you got to see the world, or was it a frustrating thing because you feel like you're trying to get back to the NBA and you can't make it?
Truth of the matter is I probably wasn't good enough to be an NBA guy. The way that the NBA now is, I'm probably good enough to play.
It's true.
I was probably good enough to play, right now. But back then, the league was so much more athletic, so much more talented. I remember, when you think about who was in the West, the great two guards they're done. They're either point guards or small forwards now. But so athletically, I probably wasn't good enough to play. If I could have worked a little harder and assumed the veteran role or the coach on the floor role, there might have been an opportunity for me to stick around a little bit longer. I could always make shots. I really understand the game. Still understands the game tremendously. Picked up offense and defense. I only needed to see it 2 or 3 times. Was one of the reasons why Flip kept me on that team was that, I could play 3 through 4 just because I knew how to play. But Europe is probably where I was probably most suited for. And the bottom line is I probably just didn't work as hard as I should have,
Really?
And not in the sense of working out, but just in the sense that at that level you got to find someone, a veteran, to teach you how to stay. Because it's not about being good or bad. We've seen in the NBA that there's some bad guys that are always around. So it's about finding a place. It's about finding some value. It's about getting that name recognition or that GM recognition where, like you said about Torrey, good in the locker room.
Talking about Torrey Hunter.
Good from there. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you just kind of described, though, the way you see the game, the way you understand the game. You kind of described it, Coach. Why didn't you end up going farther into coaching?
Well, when I got done with 10 years, I have a daughter. It was just like the greatest thing that I've been able to do now is call my mom and say, okay, when do you want me to come home for Christmas? Yeah. What are we doing for Thanksgiving? Yeah. I'll be home for my birthday. I can go see my daughter when I want to. So it was one of those things where, if I really wanted to give up the game, I should have just kept playing. So I got this opportunity, and now I'm fighting that battle. I do a little coaching and a little other stuff to keep me busy, but it was all about just really, really changing the lifestyle.
Yeah, and I've heard that from a lot of baseball people, too. It's like, I could have been a coach, but that would meant spending 6 months a year on the road. And it's a tough life. It's a tough life with very little security.
It's a grind. And, for me, I look at it, I would rather be on the business side now. I'm not really big on the player side, but I will love like front office stuff. Oh, that would be fun. Going to the gym every day, trying to put something together. It's tough now. I think that the NBA is going to go to a league where the coach has to be the general manager.
Really?
I think so.
Interesting.
I think so.
So are you saying that because the players need to understand that the guy coaching them is also their boss?
Not in that sense, because, if you really want a coach to be around, if you're only going to give them 4 years, and you can't get the players in that actually like each other, that the coach likes. How many times in the NBA have we seen it where you can just, that the coach doesn't like a guy?
All the time, yep.
Rick Alleman and Jason and Williams.
Yep.
Just flat out. Didn't matter if that kid went out and scored 42 points a night.
You're right.
Don't like him.
Yep.
And it's weird to the sense of it shouldn't be like that, because I bet you now Flip will probably, and it's not like that, because we see that when we see where guys that when the GM likes a guy, he's protected, makes him play, sticks around too long.
Yep.
Why is this kid still playing? Why is the kid still on the team? And those are roster spots that I think that, ultimately, get coaches fired. Where if you really think that a coach is good, he needs to have some type of conversation in the personnel, so that he needs to bring in people that fits his personalities more so than if he can play or not. Because in the NBA, if you get one superstar, you don't need another one, because then you have problems. The whole thought process that you can trade Durant because Westbrook is a star now is kind of what? No, you keep all the best players you can and you coach them. But when you have a GM that gets to the point where, because either he has a love affair with a guy or he has some other folks on the team, or if it's a business decision, then all of a sudden you open yourself up to some problems.
Interesting. Well, let's talk a little more about the Wolves in a second here. I do want to welcome in newest sponsor of the SouhanUnfiltered podcast, Minnesota Eye Consultants. You can find them online at mni.com, mneye.com. Their slogan is, "For your eyes, see the best." Minnesota Eye Consultants, laser vision correction, LASIK, free laser screenings for new patients who have not had previous eye surgery. Minnesota eye surgeons from Minnesota. They live here. They also were the first to do LASIK in the United States. So check out their website, mni.com. We welcome them aboard. They also do work with the Minnesota Twins and the Minnesota Vikings. They're the preferred ophthalmologist for both of those. And they have 5 Twin Cities locations. Again, mni.com, mneye.com. So you think Flip's going to hold on to coach and GM positions for the long term?
Yes. I think that's the best. I think, especially for Flip and where he is, I think it's the greatest thing. I think that just been in love with his moves. And I think that flexibility for him being in that situation, because Flip is a skilled guy. He wants players that are skilled. And the whole thing with him and Kevin McHale was that Kevin wanted to get potential. Mm-hmm. Bring in the potential. And Flip said, no, bring in some guys that can make some shots. Because the way and then that whole thing of, you need to go to the basket. Well, why don't you just make open jump shots? Yeah. So, and that was a lot of their problems.
Yeah.
Because, Kevin McHale was like, hey, guy can't shoot and he goes to the basket. Flip's like, well, we don't play like that. So, and I think that with him having that power, he can go out and get guys. He can go out and make the right moves because he knows how they're going to fit in. He can come in and have the conversation from day one, even in the process of the conversation of, okay, if you're going to come here to Minnesota, here's what I want to see. Not, well, come here and then let's meet with the coach, because I think it's a good one. Because as soon as you get that dissension between the two, the coach and the GM not seeing eye to eye, that's where the problem starts. Because then, if you have a problem with that player, who's going to be first to admit? So then, is it this guy is struggling because the coach doesn't like him, is not using him effectively, or this guy is not coachable and the GM keeps making me play him?
He's obviously Flip didn't agree to coach the team, or didn't decide to coach the team until he missed out on the Memphis coach, and then all of a sudden, and so I kind of assumed the way it happened, this would be kind of a one and done, and Flip would go back in the coaching market next year. But it'll be here's the strategic question about Flip. As you said, Flip likes a pattern offense that creates open jump shots for guys. The modern NBA metric leans toward three-point shooting and getting to the rim. Can Flip's system win in the NBA today?
Yes, I think the way I don't think Flip's system was always just about jump shots. I think that one of the things that he always had is he always had great jump shooters, especially at the point guard spot. You remember his years when he had tremendous and Sam Cassell. Yep. I mean, he was he got the ball into the post, and Kevin just turned around jump shots.
Right.
So it's not that, Flip was one of the greatest offensive minds that you've seen. I mean, I still look at it, and the stuff that he can do to get guys open shots is the same way that Jerry Sloan, John Stockton used to run the same thing around Carl, and through the system create gaps in which they were good at being able to take advantage of. Flip is phenomenal at he could get you shots in the NBA game. It's like, do you like to be on the left-hand side?
I'd miss him, but he could get me shots. Yeah.
And Flip whole thing is that he didn't care if you missed them or not. That was one of the greatest lines that he ever said that I heard in practice. He was like, when you have an open shot, take it. It's my responsibility for you not to miss 3 in a row. And it was that, and that's kind of his deal. But when you think about basketball, you always have to play for the players that you have. And when you look at Wiggins takes the ball to the basket. Levine takes the ball to the basket. Rubio takes the ball in the basket. And a lot of times against good teams, you don't get to the basket anyway. So when you look at the NBA, when you even look at college, what is the major difference? Why has LeBron James and the Miami Heat been so good but so bad in the playoffs? Because they can't shoot.
Yeah.
We talk about it all the time. It's still amazing to me how a team that shoots over 65% for the year has only won one NBA championship. That should tell you something.
Interesting. What's your take on Wiggins? How good can he be?
Oh, I like him. Boy, he's good. Woo. I just like their what Flip has done with his trades and his draft picks is that from a financial situation, they're all under the rookie salary cap. So you're talking about Wiggins 4 years at pennies, and if you don't want to max him out, go find what you want, and you know what we'll do? We'll match it for 6 more years, and then we'll wait to see what happens in year 6 and 7. And I really feel like for the Wolves to have success, they have to do it through the draft, and they have to do it through trades. They have to have that. They have to have that chart on Wiggins when he says, okay, he's going to play for 10 years. Is it 6 or is it 7 when it starts to go down? And when it's 7, or even if it's 7.5, 8, if you can get a first rounder for him at 8, you got to say, hey, Wiggy, love to have you. Trade, get another draft pick because, the way that the money's going, if you can get kids that are underneath the salary cap, it's beneficial for you. And when you really think about what they have, with Rubio, with Levine, with Wiggins, with Payne, that I really like, with Gorgie, those are 5 guys right there. You put in KG for another 2 years because I think at 20 minutes, great. Put in Peck. I don't know if you can move him or not, but you can keep him. But then, then you start to think, well, what do we really need? Because Levine can play all 3 spots now. He's a bona fide point guard, so you don't need to go out and get another point guard. Then you put Shabazz, okay. He's going to be a Flip type of system. So as long as he understands that, he should just stay right here. Flip puts him on the left-hand side, let him post up, run plays for him, highly successful. That's another small forward. But then when you think about it, do you need another superstar? No. L.A. and New York, Chicago taught us that this summer is that you can have all the money, you can have the city, you can have the great coach, you can have all of the outside money you want. Folks just don't want to leave for free agency, and free agency is not about going to the biggest city. It's about, I don't know what it's about nowadays.
Comfort, probably.
It's about something. They all went home. So when you look at that and you look at the top 7 that they have, what do you need to go out and get? I just love what he's doing because all of them are under contract, locked up. You'll be able to sign them to long deals if you want. If not, you can let the rookie salary cap go, extend them out each 1 year, 6 years, unrestricted free agent. If they go out and get a 5 for 30, below market value, sign them. 2 years, you don't like them, trade them.
Well, you got March Madness starting up, which means not only a very entertaining bunch of basketball games, but also you get to scout who the Wolves might be taking high in the draft next year. Who do you like? Who would you like to see them get?
that's the tough part. That's the tough one. There's a little bit of part of me that says that I don't know if they need another rookie. So,
but what if it's a really good rookie, Okafor or Towns or
if they get
Russell?
So say if they get Okafor, right? Mm-hmm. Where does that put you? What does that put you? Then you're in a situation where you have to move Peck.
You have to move Peck, no question, and I'd be okay with that.
But the whole point of it is that who's going to take him? Well, and then you put yourself in another bad situation. And then do you take a small forward? I think the only thing that you really go out and get is maybe a 2-guard, but you don't need a Russell because why? You need more of a shooter than you need someone to put the ball on the floor because you got Levine, you got Wiggins. They can all put the ball on the floor. It's not going to be enough balls to dribble.
Don't you think Russell can shoot it well enough though?
To be a
NBA 2-guard?
He can, but he's not going to be a catch and shoot. But I just think with the dynamics of the team, I don't think you need another one-on-one player that needs space to have ball. And plus, to be frankly, Flip doesn't play like that. He'll ISO you, but there's not going to be a lot of pass and go screen. And plus, Rubio is a legitimate NBA player. He can make more plays than any rookie or any other guy in the league in the pick and roll. When you think about who should have the ball in their hands mostly to create something, it's him because he can make plays for everybody. So I think the dynamics of it is that, okay, Rubio's going to play 30, 35 minutes. Wiggins going to play 30, 35 minutes. Where do you have someone? Where do you bring else? So I would say if there was somebody out there, maybe I would love to see them to go out and get a guy that just flat out shoot the ball. Maybe go trade. I would love for them to go trade for the kid that's at Sacramento that came out of Kansas. Can't remember his name. 2 years ago.
I know McLemore.
Yes, kid like that, same age range, has tremendous ability, can come off screens. I look at. I think they should just go trade for a rookie that's in his third or fourth year and bring in someone that fits the age, has a little experience because, unfortunately, if you think about the team that they have, even with Rubio, Wiggins, Levine, Shabazz, Gorgie, if they go out and get 2 more rookies or 3 more rookies in the next 3 years, they still won't have anybody that's over the age of 25.
Right.
And we all know the NBA is not as physical, but it's still a grown man league. So until Wiggins get his 5th year, look at DeMarcus Cousins. I was talking to a guy the other day. He was like, man, we should have drafted. I was like, did you see the first 4 years?
Well, but you still should have drafted DeMarcus Cousins instead of Wes Johnson. Come on.
Well, and that's just kind of it. So I look at it and say, okay, with another rookie, even if they drafted, so say if they got Okafor, right? Mm-hmm. I think I'll package him, send him somewhere.
Really?
Yeah, I just think that there's so many GMs out there that make bad decisions. You probably could get him. You probably can get another first rounder, a solid rookie, and an expiring contract for a kid like that.
I don't see the Wolves doing it though, because I think the Wolves, as much as they want to be patient, are desperate to be relevant.
They are relevant.
I agree with you, but I don't think the average Minnesota sports fan agrees. I think they are doing what they need to do.
KG is back. The average Minnesota Timber fan is they are happy. And to be honest with you, that was probably one of the I don't know if I say lucky, but that was one of the best moves that I've seen in years.
I agree with you.
Oh, because that had the potential of being nasty next year. Because they were thinking he was going to opt out. But what if he would have opted in? Flip was going to go out and get KG to bring him back. Mm-hmm. How much of a mess would that would have been? You would have had Gorgie, Peck. It would have been too many people right there and too many just. And I just it was just great. And I think, getting pain, even though he's going through some deals, I think athletically, I think skill-wise, I think that he can be a really good player. I think he can be a really good role player. His biggest thing is that, he needs to commit. He needs to play. He needs to listen to Flip, do how Flip wants, not how he wants. But, even then, I look at Anthony Bennett and folks go, well, we should get rid of him. But when you think about he's still another 6'10" kid that shoots the ball really well, that has to learn how to be tough. And it's so unfair because I feel like that's one of the hardest parts about the NBA is that you get guys that come out of college that are scorers, that are not necessarily prima donna, but they're scorers, they're finesse players. They go score the ball. They get to the NBA, and they're not elite enough to assume that role. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden it's supposed to be like, hey, need you to go be a banger. Kid hadn't been a banger since probably 12 years old when he was in school. But that's the whole point. I think that even with him, you still have a young front line. You still have 5'6", 6'9", 6'10", run, athletic, can make shots. And I just feel like in Flip's system, if it ever clicks and he understands it, he can come right in and be a 15, 20-point scorer. Wow. Maybe Kevin Love. That's where you go out and get Kevin Love back.
Yeah, that's going to happen. We'll go back to reality here. Give me your quick take on the NCAA bracket. What jumps out at you?
Unofficially, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think what my Sweet 16 is. I got Wisconsin in one bracket losing to Oregon.
Ooh.
I have I'm trying to think.
You have Northern Iowa making it?
Oh, I have them going to the Final Four.
Wow.
Final Four, I have Northern Iowa. No, I have them in the Elite Eight. Northern Iowa, Michigan, Duke, Iowa State, Arizona, North Carolina, Kentucky, and there's a team at the bottom that I can't think of.
That's all right. That's close enough. I'm just looking for some general picks. You don't have to fill out an entire bracket for us.
So that's it. Yeah.
And does Kentucky win it?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think their margin of victory is going to be very high too.
It'd be interesting. I have them. I have them going against Michigan State, and for some odd reason, even though it's a little bit of a bracket, I think that Michigan State. I look at the Big Ten teams, and I really feel like they have the opportunity to beat. I'm not on the Wisconsin bandwagon because the only thing of it is that the big kid. I think he's too. Kaminsky. I think he's too much of a footwork guy. So I think he has to have a lot of ups and unders and all that type of deal. And I don't know if he really has faced someone in the Michigan where if he pump fakes and go to the basket, there's going to be another 6'9" guy to rotate. Big Ten has been very, very small inside. Mm-hmm. And when you look at what are some comparables, when they played Duke, they struggled. And I look for the NCAA, I look for teams and how they struggle and how they play. And when it comes to Wisconsin, I thought Purdue had a tremendous game plan. They played a smaller guy on Kaminsky, made him go to the basket, and big guys come over, and he just struggled to score the ball over the top. They struggle with guards. But the biggest thing that is really the biggest effect in college basketball is that kids tend to bow down to adversity more so than I've ever seen.
Really?
Oh, Michigan State game was all about adversity. A little bit of adversity, both teams just went down like this, and then both came back. 14 seconds left, you catch the ball, you're supposed to hold it. You're supposed to be tough-minded enough. I'm going to make 2 free throws and this game is over with.
Interesting. Let's go to a segment I call Broadcast News, get into a few different questions you might not have been asked for a long time. Give me your favorite TV show, either all time or right now.
I'm watching Elementary right now.
I love that show.
That's the greatest show ever. Elementary, I tell you what's on my DVR. Elementary, Blackish.
That's funny.
That's on there. God, what's the one with the scientists?
Oh, Big Bang Theory?
Yes. I love that one.
It's funny. Everybody I know either loves it or absolutely hates it. I love it.
It is the greatest. I'm trying to think what else. And then all the Wolves games.
Yeah, okay. There you go. And what's your favorite TV series of all time?
Right now, I'm going with Elementary.
Really? Of
Yeah.
all time? Wow. Have you ever seen the BBC version of Sherlock?
A little bit.
I love that.
A little bit.
With Benedict Cumberbatch.
But see,
phenomenal.
my thing is, I got a little bit of thing for Lucy Liu, so.
Oh, well, that explains
that explains a lot of it.
All right, give me a favorite movie, either now or all time.
One of the favorite movies is probably Shawshank Redemption. I love that movie.
All men love that movie.
I don't know why, but that was a good one. I'm trying to think. I'm a huge Star Wars, so I love Star Wars.
Even the last couple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's dark, but it's okay. What else? One of the ones that I have to admit is like Talladega Nights.
Well, it's funny.
I still laugh at that one.
But that's okay.
I still love that one, especially with the cougar. So, Baby Jesus. Baby Jesus. It's so hilarious. Trying to see what else. What other movies are like? Semi-Pro is great.
I haven't seen it.
You ever seen with Will Ferrell?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, and they trade the one guy for a washing machine.
I'll have to check that out.
Oh, it's the greatest. The guy walks in, and he's this huge basketball junkie, and he recognizes the guy's like semi-pro legend. He's making out with his girlfriend. He's like, yes, yes.
Well, I'll have to check that out. I'll put that on the list.
Semi-Pro is a great basketball movie. Right, one of the greatest.
Favorite music, artist, album, anything. Genre. Anything.
Yeah, rap, hip hop, R&B.
Tori's a big Tupac guy. How about you?
I listen to a lot of stuff. For me, I do a lot of stuff. I'm trying to think what else. I like songs, like. She thinks my tractor's sexy. That's one of my favorite.
You have completely integrated yourself.
I tell you, I do. I'm trying to think. There's a couple of tractor songs that I really like. Jason Aldean's my guy. Friends in Low Places. I always sing that. Pour Some Sugar. So we got a couple.
I want to ride a Zamboni.
I don't know what I want. Okay. I have to hear that one.
It's a Gear Daddy's one.
So I got a lot of them. I'm versatile. I pride myself in hanging out in low lit bars a lot with the jukebox going. You've
told me that before. Any bars around here you like to mention? Or you got to keep your profile low, but maybe you don't want to mention them on the air.
For sure, you probably can always find me at JD Hoyt's. I even got my picture up there, so I kind of grew up there. That's one of my favorite spots. Probably one of the most underrated places is the Loop. I think their food is phenomenal.
I've been there once with a friend.
Blue Doors, both of them.
Blue Doors, great.
I love that. Every once in a while, I man up and get that Jiffy Burger with the peanut butter, the burger, and the bacon. Trying to think what else. I'm a huge foodie. I love all types. So if I'm missing it and I come, I'm trying to think what else do I do.
Well, think about that for a second. Let me ask you another Timberwolves question. How long until the Timberwolves, the way you talked about them, are good?
I really felt like if Rubio hadn't got hurt, they would be solidly in the 10th spot. Early in the year, I thought they were playing very well. When this team gets healthy and Rubio is running it, I thought they had a chance. I thought they had a chance in the beginning to really make a big push at it. I still had them winning 30 games, and I think they're still on track. With the season that they had, I think they're still going to probably win more games than they did last year. When you go youth, you're not supposed to be competitive.
Right. Especially not in that conference.
And they are. I mean, and Rubio's a lot better. Pound for pound, best passer in the NBA. Kid plays hard. I just like him. And I think that, with KG, depending on how he's feeling, he can steal you a couple games still, in some different situations. And I just feel like, right now they're struggling a little bit. But, I think another all season, I think they pick up one more veteran guy, maybe something else a little bit better in the bench. But I mean, they're dynamic. I mean, they're right there, and every year that they stay together, the league is getting older and older. So, I think they have a huge, opportunity, in my opinion.
Here's the tough one. This stumps a lot of people, but I get some great answers. Finish the sentence.
Uh-oh.
I was wrong about.
I was wrong about.
...
That's a good one.
We're all wrong about lots of stuff. It's a question of what you're willing to admit to.
I was, you know what? I was wrong about my level of hatred of Wisconsin until they won this weekend.
Oh,
that
it
really
went up?
That really pissed me off. Yeah.
Was that the main rival when you were playing?
Oh yeah. There's still a couple guys that I would love to start a bar fight with.
Anybody you'd like to mention?
Oh, I call them out all the time. No, I'm not going to do that. I let me think about that. I can honestly say I was wrong about the Vikings coach.
Zimmer?
Yep.
I like him.
Teddy Bridgewater.
I like him a lot.
I'm still not sold.
I'm pretty close to being sold.
I'm not sold. I just don't know if you can push the ball down the field. And I'm talking like I'm going beyond my fantasy notes.
That's all right. You know what though? He's still a pretty skinny kid. I think he's going to get bigger and stronger. I think Norv helped him. He threw a deep ball better at the end of last year, which is remarkable. His mechanics actually got better during the season, which is really difficult. I don't think that's going to be a problem.
I was wrong about Cordell Patterson.
I think a lot of us were. I think most of us thought this was going to be a breakthrough year, and he lost it.
Trying to think, kind of keep going. I was wrong about my Gophers this year.
Yeah. I think the thing that fooled a lot of us, including me, was you see a coach with his system installed finally and senior guards. And I thought that would be a formula for success, and it wasn't.
And two, I was wrong about the Big Ten. It was a lot better than I thought.
I said that. I thought it would be a down year for the Big Ten. I thought it would be an up year for the Gophers, and that didn't quite work out.
Trying to think what else.
Well, you don't have to go
I'm just being honest with you.
I'm trying to
be
that honest.
Nah, I'm just being honest with you. I get, but it's been a good year. I mean, it's been an awful great year. I mean, work-wise, family-wise, it's been fun. It's been fun. So I've enjoyed it.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming out here tonight. Let me kind of let people know what's going on. This is Souhan Unfiltered. You can find it at SouhanUnfiltered.com. You can also find it at iTunes or iHeartRadio. I want to thank Kieran's for having Quincy Lewis and myself here tonight. The place is packed. Tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, so it's supposed to be really packed tomorrow. Thank you to Minnesota Eye Consultants. You can find all their information at mneye.com, mneye.com. Thank you to Guinness, one of our newer sponsors. I am drinking a Guinness as we speak. I'll be at the local next week instead of Kieran's. And I'll be at the Liffey on Wednesday with Michael Russo. I'll be at O'Gara's on Friday, possibly with Mr. O'Brien from the football staff at the University of Minnesota. Any final thoughts, Quincy? On basketball, life, anything?
I always say to my Minnesota fans, enjoy it. Be passionate. And it's always fun. I mean, sports is supposed to be that. And I think that I just feel like thinking, getting into my soapbox a little bit about society is that, we just need to get back to the content in which sports is supposed to be about. It's not about a football player changing the world. It's not about basketball players not making mistakes. It's not about people being somebody that we want them to be. It's not about Tiger Woods not being who Tiger Woods is. Is that we get so disappointed when we find out who people are because we make them into something that they're not. I think we just need to go back and really realize is that when we go to basketball games, most of the time for the 2 hours that we go, we get to escape life a little bit. We get to cheer. We get to boo. We get to have an opinion. I just feel like we need to get back to that and kind of and not demonize sports as much as we have and get back to the pure enjoyments that we all want our kids to play sports. Some of our kids continue to grow up to be kids and play for us. So, and that's who it is. And that's my deal is just, let's back off a little bit on all the, because Right now, in all the years, it is rough being a pro athlete, just in any sport. It's just rough, and it's not fair.
And are you talking about media or fans or society in general?
I think society in general. I think, I look at it and, NBA's doing a good job, and they did something about the lean-in approach about inequality for women. The NFL did their big thing about domestic violence. But if you wasn't sure, it gave you an impression that was just a football problem, that's just a basketball problem. You play in two leagues that are dominated by men and dominated by women. Yes, they're on TV. Yes, they're role models. But that's a national problem. That's a humane problem. We see it every day. And it's one thing that, and I get it, but it's not a sports problem. And sometimes the only advertisement I ever see about domestic violence and inequality is through sports, where it should be more out. It should be something that we talk about. We should be something we talk about at work. It shouldn't be a national debate when we go and have to vote on it. And that's just how it is. But also too, I'm gonna take it the other way. Sports has always been that one that crossed the barrier, that breaks down barriers, that kind of make life complete. So maybe I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I just really wish that we can relax a little bit, and so that the next generation doesn't grow up to be worse than Barry Bonds and hate all media and hate all people. I still believe that's the reason why baseball was ruined, because the media hated Barry Bonds so much and they just wouldn't stop.
Interesting.
I was going to write a book about it.
Well, you still have time.
So here's my theory, right? Barry Bonds, probably one of the greatest baseball players of all time.
Yep.
Hit 40-40 long before there were steroids. Had two guys, known cheaters. No one cared about it. Saved baseball. Baseball came back, admitted that they are going to juice the baseball because they wanted more home runs. You had Pud Rodriguez that came back hitting 50 home runs, 60 home runs in 1 year. Nothing. But then all of a sudden you have Barry Bonds. Breaks the record. That is the one person that we cannot let name be number one in the record book. I mean, that was it. So what did they do? They spent 10 years through the court systems in California to try to find this guy. They even put his trainer in jail. So what happened? Congress got involved and said, we're going to investigate. And the list that came out of that investigation captured Roger Clemens, captured all of the great people that baseball never wanted to see tarnished. Caught them all. And then, and it's still amazing to me, and this is the thing that I didn't understand. Mark Aguirre, national TV, in front of Congress, goes up and says what he does. Doesn't get arrested, doesn't do jail time, and still works in baseball.
Yep.
Where Barry Bonds put him in jail, tried to ban him, and try to do it, and now they're in now baseball is in this weird predicament because everyone that they love is tainted. Yep. And the one thing that they can't do, they can't put one tainted guy in, because why? If you do that, you know who you have to let in? Barry Bonds. And the whole thing started because of the hatred of Barry Bonds.
Well, I mean, my position on the steroid era is very simple, which is just about everybody was doing it, which isn't right, but it does mean that there was a level playing field. And I never viewed the Hall of Fame as a reward for only the good human beings. I think it's every Hall of Famer is a product of his era. So you have Hall of Famers who made it without ever having to face a black pitcher or have their fly ball chased down by a great black center fielder. You had guys who were cheats. You had guys who were racist. You had guys who used greenies. Every era had its own context. And the era of the steroid era, the context of the steroid era was players took steroids. That's what they did. So my stance, and I'm the rare baseball writer who looks at it this way, is if they were exceptional in their own era, then they belong in the Hall of Fame.
Well, my thing of too is that with some of these guys, they wouldn't even be having a conversation without the steroids. Barry Bonds, you could take out his last 6 years and say, hey, look at his numbers. He's still in.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid was that well. I mean, it was a shame that Ken Griffey Jr. quit the way he did. And it wasn't about baseball. It wasn't about cheating. He just saw that how baseball treated his dad and just said, I don't need you guys. I mean, he's the greatest, one of the greatest players of all our time that just ended probably 5 or 6 years too early.
Yeah, that's very true.
Let me ask you this. This is a question for you. Read an article about Derek Jeter. Mm-hmm. Cashman said, I don't know if there's going to be ever another captain again. How do you feel about that?
I think that's an emotional response that probably isn't all that wise, because you can't predict that there won't be another player like Jeter in the future. I mean, you're talking about the Yankees. They can have 85 more great players. They can have 12 more Hall of Famers in the next 50 years. Jeter was a great player, and he carried himself with incredible grace. But I don't think he needs to be the last captain of the Yankees. I just think Cashman, that to me, that's Cashman placing too much importance on his own era, his own tenure.
Okay.
And I like Cashman. I think he's a pretty good guy. Yeah. And he's a very, and people around baseball like Cashman. Cashman doesn't have many enemies. But I just thought that was going a little too far. That was my take on it.
I loved it.
Did you?
I think, and here's another one, right? So the guy off of, I can't remember the show, said that Kobe Bryant was born too soon. And he said, do you think that the impression of how we think Kobe Bryant would be different if Michael Jordan was dead and gone, and then you had Kobe come up?
Yeah, I absolutely do, because he got compared to Michael in every way, and he embraced that. He went after that. He wanted to be as great or greater than Jordan, and he had an incredible career, and he probably couldn't quite match Jordan, and that is the context. And context is everything in sports. It really is. And I actually agree with that, because Kobe was a phenomenal player, rare player.
I do think that is true, but I think it's the simple fact that Jordan was still around.
Right. And the memories were too fresh.
It was too fresh, and that's the reason why everyone hated him. That's the only reason why you hate Kobe.
Yeah, I mean, unless again you want to go off the court, unless you want to say, okay, he did this thing off the court, and I'm going to view his athletic career through that prism. But as a player, he's the ultimate competitor. Wanted to take every big shot. Wanted to be the leader. Won championships without much help. Great player.
I think so too.
And it's funny too the way you talk about the timing, because if Jordan had been 50 years in the rearview mirror, people would have thought, oh, you're just, like the way people now think of Elgin Baylor. Okay, he was good, but how good was he really? Because they don't have the fresh memories. But Jordan was right in that sweet spot, still is, where still around, people still remember seeing him play live. All the highlights are still readily accessible. The legend still looms,
and he still walks around.
And he still walks around and talks about it. Yes,
for sure.
Absolutely. Quincy, I appreciate this.
It was fun.
It was a blast. We'll have to do it again.
Let me know.
That is Quincy Lewis, Gophers executive.
Don't get me in trouble
executive,
now.
Gophers executive, we're going to call him. We're going to hang around Kieran's now and probably have a drink and a little bit of food. Thanks again to my sponsors, Minnesota Eye Consultants. You find them at mneye.com. Guinness Beer, Kieran's and the Local, the Liffey, and O'Gara's Bar and Grill. Thanks. We'll be back Wednesday at the Liffey with Michael Russo for a hockey podcast.